Today I would like to talk a bit about the culture that we're currently in and what we're up against and how best we can maintain our balance and our optimism in light of what appears to be happening around us. So first of all, I just want to say, when I talk about our hypnotic culture, our seemingly very fear-based current mode that we're in, it is our creation. It is the current creation that we're playing with, if you can just step back enough to see it that way, as souls, as consciousness, being human. It's something that we're exploring. So there isn't, I don't want to say it's a bad thing or qualify it that way. And I don't want to describe it as anything that is either out of our control or is being done to us. It is the creative of the whole of humanity that puts this into play. There isn't overarching creepy dark lords that are at work. It is what we create with our thoughts and our awareness and our emotions. So because the universe is mirroring to us all the time, if we see a lot of tragedy, if we see a lot of drama, if we see a lot of angst, we mirror that back in the attention that we place on it. And I once heard it described that, and I think this seems like a very logical thing, that the reason why we are drawn to darkly dramatic news, okay? A lot of people will say, the news is all full of tragedy. The news is full of, a lot of people are smartly turning away from the news, very smartly turning away from the news. And there are ways that you can be informed. But I just want to say that the point about the news, the thing about the news is that the reason there's a lot of negative stories on the news is because that's what we are interested in as a culture, as humanity, human beings. We're drawn to that drama, like when there's an accident and everybody wants to see it. We have a lot of judgment around that, a lot of judgment around people who pay attention to that, and also around the fact that seems to be what leads in the news. It just does. When you see stories, beautiful stories about wonderful things happening, it's not that interesting to most people. And maybe, I'm just guessing, but maybe the reason is that when it's cheerful, happy, uplifting stories, we can be out creating our own. But the problem is that as human beings, as the physical, biological beings that we are, fear and danger are important for us to notice. If you imagine living in a wild, let's say you were living in the jungle or the forest, and you didn't have the conscious awareness that we're talking about here. If you weren't aware of your environment, and you don't have consciousness, you're just going about life in a survival mode. And in that survival, I'm trying to be delicate about that, because some very you can be in a very ancient tribal off the grid culture and have full consciousness. So I'm just describing that the basic instinct of a human being, the biological matter, is that we are drawn to anything that we detect is dangerous because we want to learn so that we can be safe from it. So in a tribal, I mean, in a jungle or forest kind of a setting, it might be, there's you see a dangerous animal, you see a carcass, you see, signs of an animal that has come through. All of those things are important because you're going to want to see what that is, and you're going to want to learn what happened so you can avoid that. If an animal is laying dead and they look like they just ate a thing, you might get the idea that is a dangerous thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to read into it. And I'm being very simplistic about it, but the article that I read was fascinating and made a lot of sense. And it was really just rooted in saying we have a natural attraction to the macabre, and it isn't coming out of some creepy dark place. It's that it's a natural instinct to become aware of our environment and to be cautious. So if you take that as an instinctual thing, and you realize that we're living in environments where, first of all, the dangers are different now, but also so we are, I don't know how to exactly describe this, but so when news stories come on about terrible tragedies and violence, we're drawn to it because on some level we're thinking protection. But if you were to step back from all of that, how we draw those experiences to us are by thinking so much about them. So you could use school shootings for an example. We're going around scratching our heads. We're frustrated. Is it, why is it happening more and more and more? We're so caught up in it. We're so caught up in it. And the more we're caught up in it, the more it's going to happen. And it has really very little to do with guns and weapons. I mean, yes, those are those are tools that are used, but if people are going to go crazy and do crazy things, they'll find all kinds of ways. We had airplanes being used. We've had cars being used, right? And I'm not saying that to engage in any kind of dialogue about firearms, because I do feel that firearms are, it can be, if you've ever gone shooting, firearms can be fun if you are doing target practice and it's like a sport. Firearms as protection is an entirely different thing. So when we're talking about the way that our mind works, when I talk about the, how we are, where we're putting our attention creates what happens. From that perspective, seeing a gun as either a tool for survival, like hunting animals, or as if you are going to be in a very dangerous situation where there's a lot of wild animals and things, or sometimes now it's people, you may need to be protective and see a weapon as protection. But because we've created an environment right now that for many people feels extremely dangerous, It really isn't. If you were to look at the odds, if you looked at the numbers of people and the odds that that you're going to be a victim of a violent crime, for example, it's so small. It's so small. And if you are really, if you're meditating and you are in clear mind most of your day, if you take some time to do a practice that gets you set in the morning, if you use all of these tools that we talk about to keep your awareness heightened, then you will always instinctively avoid and remove yourself from places that would be dangerous for you. You'll feel the urging to go a different way. I've talked before about, you have, when you're doing this practice of paying attention and making choices, if you get an urge to turn left instead of straight, and you can go either way, but you get an urge to do that, when you're tuned in, you're going to follow that urge. And I often do that I let go of why I'm turning. And I trust that it could very well be one of the times when I'm being directed away from a bad situation, a dangerous situation. And when we're tuned in and we follow that, we're not going to be in those circumstances. And therefore, we don't need to fear and we don't need to feel we need to be protective. Now, I know that's kind of hard to absorb for people who feel like they need that protection. But the reason I'm bringing it up isn't even to engage in a thought about that so much as to say that the more we feel that we need to protect ourselves, the more danger we create. It's just the way it works. And so the more of us that tune ourselves to feel those inner instincts, to trust those inner urges, the less fear is going to be just running rampant out on the planet. And the fear that's running rampant is exactly what is creating so much of this violence and drama. I talked before about politics. It falls into the same category. If you look at political systems, it's like there's this thing that can happen sometimes. You can have a perfectly wonderful, functioning political system, but when there is high levels of fear and it's fear, high levels of fear in a sense of we need to protect, you start to translate that into everything around you. And when you have in a democracy like here, we have representation. Well, the representatives have to look at what the people are experiencing. The people are experiencing fear for safety. They're going to address that. And what happens is it filters up. It's like a grassroots fears build, and it filters up into the government. And so the government isn't a bad or evil thing, and it's not something we have to fight against. We have to understand that the people, and we are all, we live among one another, and we just have different opinions and different philosophies, and those are translating like little rivers out to the people that represent us. And it's a difficult time right now because what we're seeing is a lot of chaos, and a lot of sense of disempowerment. And what disempowerment creates, if you feel disempowered, that's going to create an urge to take power. That's a natural thing. If you are tuned, if you are clear, you would understand that you are never disempowered. The power is all right within you. You're the one that is creating for yourself. So we all have that power. There are so many stories of incarcerated people who are, completely cut off from society, and yet they find the power within them. Sometimes that is one of the best ways for people to find that way to tune, because everything else is taken away from you. It's hard in a culture like this where we have everything available to us. So daily we are making the choice about whether we're going to use the power that we have, because we are all very powerful with our vibration. And we have to continue to choose how we're going to direct that energy. And this is why it's so important that we start practicing tools. If the words that I'm conveying aren't landing with you and don't feel like that doesn't solve it for you, there is so much out there on the internet or in books, or if you look around at people you can find a voice that speaks to you, but you've got to be looking for the light. And I say light, we think of lights that you turn on, the light that is, stars, the sun, the universe, God. And I want to say that when you say light, simplify it and think about light thoughts, light emotions. When I talk about chakras and we talk about these higher energy centers, these higher level emotions, why those are more empowering for us is because when you're feeling these feelings, when you feel compassion, and just feel it for a minute, like feel that, compassion. Think of somebody that you love. Think of if you've had a child, the moment you met that child you just had, or anything so beautiful. If you've taken a loved one through the threshold, it is another absolutely stunning, beautiful place. And you can think of things that feel like that, even though what I'm saying, those are things that involve a lot of pain. But when you see it from the eyes of compassion, you feel light. It feels light, joyful, warm. Love feels light. Sharing about joy feels light. When you think about pain, when you think about loss, when you think about control issues, those don't feel light. So you can make it really simple and take the woo out of it and just say, the lighter the emotions are, the better you're going to be, because that is what you are going to convey. That is the radiance that is going to be going out from your presence. And when we meet one another face to face or through a conversation like this, one-sided though it is, what we see in one another is our radiance or lack of radiance. What draws us to and repels us from individuals is all about the vibration that you are emanating. It is invisible, but it is tangible. And so as you go about your day, as you notice yourself feeling tight, feeling heavy, fear is both of those, but there's a lot of other emotions that carry that. When you feel that feeling, you can bring your attention to it in a way you don't need to transform it into a happy face. But notice it and then let it go and lift it. If all you can do is to think of something else, that is the best thing you can do. Think of something else. Something is stressing and straining you, think of something else. Art, music, dancing, one of the reasons those are considered tools for therapy is because it is something you can do when you're feeling heavier feelings, and you can turn your attention to something else that brings you into a more neutral, lighter stage. But anyway, the point of it is, even, you're out thinking of things, when you catch yourself feeling like you have to be safe, you have to protect, you got to check in, because I'm not going to tell you that there isn't ever anything that you need to be afraid of, although I feel like that's probably true. It feels very true to me. What I want to convey is that there are ways that you can practice and develop your discernment, your capacity discernment, so that you no longer are driven by that level of fear and concern. And the more you do that, you are going to then provide that lift to everyone around you. That's why it matters. The news is, people talk about doom scrolling. We have so much attraction to those accidents that we're passing, which are every dramatic thing that is, coming across your news feed. Actually, a perfect way to look at it is a lot of these social networking, and really all kinds of internet traffic is now based on algorithms. So think about it. This is where we go to, are we in I can't think of the word, and I'm not going to say it because it's left me so that I don't say it. But anyway, think about this. If you keep seeing, you might find out where your consciousness is at just by seeing what Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, see what's in your feed. Because there are so many algorithms looking at what you slowed down. When you're scrolling and you slow down, that's registered. When you click on something, that's registered. They're looking, and it's a service that they're trying to provide, that what you like, they're going to give you more of it. That's going to keep you engaged. Okay. So if what you keep looking at is dark, you're going to keep getting that. If you look at a lot of really politically motivated ads and discussions, and you respond, it's going to be even worse if you respond to that. That is then what is going to fill your feed, and you're going to wonder why you don't ever see anything but that. By that same token, if you're really into God and you're always doing a lot of God quotes and religious things, you'll just see a lot of that. And if there are, different things that you're into and you like, you're going to see that. So think about that. That's how it works in the world. They're just harnessing it digitally. What you are drawn to the universe provides. It's like the master data analyst. And so if you want to know how you're, take temperature on your consciousness, if you're on any social media, go look and see, and just kind of scroll through and see what kind of ads are being shown to you. If you're in Facebook, see what kind of, even it works in the marketplace too. If you stop and look at something, I'm so careful about that because I hate getting slammed with stuff. So I try not to click on any of that. But when I do, it's like I see a lot of like boho style things and stuff, it's like that. I'm fine with that. I don't care. You know what? Fill my feeds up with that all day long. But I get hardly any political commentary anymore because I stopped looking at it. I stopped engaging with it. I see hardly any violence and drama. I don't. Now, if I go to my news feed, if I go to my phone's news feed, I will see some of that, but I don't stay on it. And so little by little, I get less and less of it. And I spend less time looking at it. So my point about that is it does take practice. It takes awareness. And I feel I don't want to say it's an impossible task and takes forever, but it takes time. And I stopped watching TV a long, long time ago. And by that, I don't mean I've never watched, I watch movies. I do watch stuff on YouTube and that now. But I hadn't had a TV. I haven't had a TV in decades. And as a result, I haven't been sucked into all of that. If you were to ask my kids, they would tell you, I am a magnet to a screen like that and to stories. And I recognize that's why I stopped watching it. It will hypnotize you. Next thing you know, you're just completely mesmerized and hypnotized and you're sitting there. Well, we currently have so many things that are acting as a form of hypnosis on us that, again, you tune yourself, get clear. The more you can do that, the better you're going to be at knowing when to turn away from something and knowing when something is getting under your skin. And your only avenue is to turn away from it. So you can turn away from the news. You can listen to news radio. That's going to tell you all your important stuff. You can subscribe to online journals that appeal to you, things that are about world things that aren't going to be filled with drama. I'm thinking of things like, National Geographic and, Wired, there's things that are out there. I don't read it. I mean, a lot of that it's not coming into my mind. But anyway, the point is you can cherry pick what you want to see in your news and don't look at just all the rest of that stuff, because honestly, all of the fear around protecting, like, I want to say it started for me, my awareness of it started with 9/11. And I felt instinctively at that time, I was against the grain. I was so against the grain, and I was misunderstood by so many people because I couldn't get with it. I could not get with the rage and retribution. I couldn't. And I couldn't get with the protect ourselves. And that was, I wasn't even into the stuff that I'm learning about now. That's just how I naturally was. It made no sense to me that we would, I felt like when we started having to take off our shoes to get on planes, it was insane. I thought, this is crazy. We're allowing what some crazy people did to change our lives. They literally changed us that way. That's how it works. So everyone at that time who said this huge panic spread across the country and across the world, and it was palpable, and it was a wave. It was a wave of fear that we're still rolling in. And we then started going about protecting. And the more we've done that, the more other things we need to be protected from. So I feel like I have watched, you can say, oh, it's, it's just the times or whatever, but you can see what happens. We're clipping along. This really big, crazy thing came out of the blue, literally. But from that point forward, it has been one thing after another. It's, the school shootings, and those keep escalating. It's the politics, it's the degree that politics is escalating. And this is all around the world. It isn't just here. But the point about it is we keep radiating that. And each one of us, as we feed that by giving it attention, we're contributing. So you want to stop violence, you want to stop school shootings and political uprisings and the proliferation of guns. None of that has anything to do with an action you need to take to stop a thing. It's all about the action you have to take if you want that. You don't have to have that. If you want that in this world, you need to do it from within. You need to change your attention. You need to raise your emotional vibration to become an attractor to those lighter feelings, those lighter, beautiful emotions. And that is infinitely more powerful than those heavier emotions. And everybody has some of this lightness in them. So if you want to change the world, that's what it's going to take. That's why I started doing the Great Unfolding, particularly now. It's why I am following my impulse. I don't know what I'm going to talk about each time. I have no attachment to who's going to watch. I am building something. And I'm telling you this because you all have this ability. Because I am not attached to outcomes, I am willing then to take the time to lay something out moment by moment as I'm drawn to do it. I'm not trying to make instant karma. I'm building something. I'm writing a book. I'm creating the videos. I'm creating a program. And I'm doing it out in public because I get emotional when I talk about things that touch my heart. Because the capacity is there for everyone. And too many people do all the work behind the scenes. We all want to wait until the show is ready and we want to hit the stage and it's going to be fabulous, or we're going to go out and we're going to portray something as though it's this thing that just happened, and we don't realize what happens behind the scenes. And what I'm trying to show is that what happens behind the scenes is all in here. It's all a following of what's in here. It's opening to those impulses and just stepping out there and doing them. And I have been laying my own breadcrumbs for myself. I've talked about that before. I have been putting things in place for this work for decades. There are things that I've done throughout my life that I can look at as they were stepping stones. And even when I did them, I knew that someday it would come in handy, but I didn't know when. And I let that go. The more we tune to our own consciousness, the more we learn to be gentle with ourselves and others, the more we learn to let go of our attachment to outcomes and trust that what is unfolding is for us. Those heavier thoughts, those heavier emotions, they're not going to stop you from unfolding. They're gonna just make it take longer. And I am an example of that. As positive as I have always been, I have some core challenges. They're challenges everybody has, but for me, they're big. And those challenges that they periodically come and they feel consuming, right? You get to a point in your life where you got to do that. And when that would happen, I would just roll with it. And I have always felt like it is it is important to remember that there isn't a deadline, that there isn't some specific master plan that we're on the track and we have no control. Control is all right in here. And the master plan is the exact thing that we are creating moment by moment because we came here to create. Therefore, there can't be a master plan. Because you understand, when you understand that we are the creative force, it means that there's not, people think of God as, someone who actually mapped us out and our life already has a map. Our life has a framework, but it's not mapped. It's just a framework. A framework that makes it easy for us to find, the greatest joy and bring that joy forth to share with other humans. That's it. So I know that was a little broad and a little intense, but I have been really called to talk about this. And I'm sure it'll come up again. It'll come up more. But I'm trying to be gentle about it, even while I feel sometimes the feeling of so much love and compassion for the struggles that we're all dealing with. And when I feel that way myself, I reach inward and upward for support, and I get it. So trust that you are being cared for. Trust that you are not alone. And trust that everything is right on time. Hopefully this video was of benefit. If it was, please like it and share it. That is the way to get the word out. Also, you can check out The Great Unfolding on Facebook or on YouTube. I have a web page. At some point, I will get myself back on that because, like I said, I have a lot of components to this work that are coming together bit by bit. And just like I'm saying to anyone else, anything that I'm saying it to myself just as much as to anyone else. So if it was my, if I had my druthers, everyone would be out looking for their sweetest, most delicious dreams and making them happen.